Good morning, Starshine. This is Smadar from Song of Stones, and for those who don't know me, I am a crystal whisperer, which means I listen to the song of the stones, the messages that the stones have for you, and I share them with you. And I help people connect with the crystals that are singing just for them. And I'm here today with this beautiful, tiny little crystal. And I shared a little bit about this crystal yesterday on social media, and I wanted to come back in and talk a little bit more about it because something interesting happened with this crystal. First of all, let me tell you how it made its presence known to me. I was clearing out the crystal room. I was reorganizing and shifting things, and the crystals, I do this sometimes when I'm moved to find a crystal. When I'm listening for a soul journey stone for somebody, this happens sometimes, where I just get this overwhelming feeling to move things or to pull things out or to reorganize something. And I don't know in the moment I don't necessarily know in the moment that there's a crystal singing for me or a client. I am just so in the presence of the moment and in the flow and song and harmony that I am just in this natural movement. And then afterwards, when the energy shifts, that's when I realize it's kind of like when angels are around. And I don't know if you've ever experienced the presence of angels, but it's like when you're in their presence, you're not thinking that you're in the presence of angels. You're just in this euphoric state, in this beautiful, deep, loving, very loving presence. And you don't realize it until they've shifted, until they've moved on, and then the feeling is gone, and then you realize, wow, okay, that's what it was. It's kind of like that when I am in the flow of listening to a crystal or a stone song. When I'm in it, I just don't even realize that I'm in it. I'm just, because that, if I were to know that I was listening for a crystal, I would already be outside of that presence. My ego and mind would be taking over, and then I would be doubting or bringing my own opinions into the mix. And there's really no room for that when you're listening to a stone song, or when you're listening for a soul journey stone for someone. The mind really can't get in the way. So I didn't expect to be talking about that. I came here, but this is how it is. So I came here to talk about this little crystal. Let me see if I can. I'm just gonna put my finger here just so you can see. I know you could see with the dime, but just in case you're not familiar with Canadian currency or US currency, here's my finger to show you just how tiny this crystal is. And I want you to know that because okay, let me move this away from you. Because I just want you to get a good angle of the crystal. So I wanted you to see the size and realize how small this crystal was, because there's questions sometimes about how big a crystal needs to be, and if the size matters. And it really doesn't, because a tiny, tiny little crystal like this can create such a powerful shift in your life. With really just its presence, without you having to do anything. And I'm going to give you an example. So yesterday, I was in a bit of a funk. I had been for several days. And it started out with exposure to some chemicals. And for those of you who are not aware, who don't know me, and don't know, I'm very sensitive to chemicals. I'm sensitive to everything. I'm a highly sensitive person, an empath, and as I'm sure probably all of you who are listening to this are. And I'm also really super sensitive to chemicals, which probably a lot of you are, whether you realize it or not. So when I'm around any chemicals really, but the stronger they are, the more my reaction. So I was around some strong chemicals, and I didn't know I was around them. It's somebody in my family had been around chemicals. And just by being around chemicals, the chemicals were already infused into their clothing and into their, their body. And so just me being around that person who had been around chemicals caused me to react. And my battery is dying, so I'm going to have to make sure I finish telling you my story before my iPad dies. So, long story short, I was reacting to the chemicals and I was angry about it. And so I was in a bit of a funk. Physically, I was having a reaction, so I wasn't feeling well. My energy was very drained. My head was foggy. I was feeling a little dizzy. So there's that. Thankfully, I have my star songs and my energy work to draw on, which I did, and I was doing it consistently, but I was still being exposed to the chemicals. So I had to keep nurturing my body and my heart. And then once I realized what was happening, of course, I took myself out of that situation and I felt immediately better within minutes. So the reason so the connection between that and this crystal is over the weekend when I was in this flow of looking of moving around things in the crystal room, I came upon this tiny little crystal, which had become lost in with all the other crystals. I didn't even know it was lost. It was up on my website. Somebody could have adopted it, and then I would have realized it was missing. But I hadn't realized until I went to put it back on the website because I thought I hadn't put it on there, and then I realized it was already there. So I was feeling very drawn to taking pictures of it yesterday, and I did. And again, if I had realized that the pictures were already up on the website, I wouldn't have needed to do that. But it was a blessing, and I feel a universal orchestration that I didn't realize that, so I had to interact with the crystal. And just in the few moments of taking pictures and touching the crystal and being in its presence, my funk lifted, my mood shifted. And then I realized afterwards that I had how can I put this? I realized that I had purposefully stayed in this funk because of the anger I was feeling about what had happened, because it was unnecessary, in quotes, because everything's for a reason, right? So once I realized this, I couldn't go back into it. I couldn't go back into the anger. I couldn't go back into that funk. I just felt better. And it was just a really, words are failing me, I guess. It's one of these experiences that is really hard to describe. But basically, I just was keeping myself in this state. And it was the anger that was because of my anger. And I guess I hadn't expressed it fully. And, or, you know what, I did express it. I think what it was is there was a part of me that was feeling that I shouldn't be angry, or, there was a part of me that I guess I needed to accept that I wasn't accepting. And so I was staying in this anger. But it just took a second of being around this crystal, and that was lifted. And it wasn't just lifted, the understanding came. And that's the most powerful part of it. And that's the beauty of the crystals, is they communicate in very many different ways, but one of the most magical is when they reflect something to you, just with their mere presence, in the most gentlest ways, without any judgment. And that's the key there, because judgment really doesn't take us out of our funk or our issues. It just keeps us in there in a different way. So, and I'll tell you, there was a part of me that didn't really want to get out of that funk. I was wanting to stay there for longer. And like, obviously, in an aware state, I wouldn't have wanted to be in that state. But it was that asleep part of me, that ego part of me, and I don't say ego in a negative way. Ego, I don't. That's another story. We'll save it for another time. So that asleep part of me wanted to stay there, wanted to wallow in my judgment, in my anger, in my there's a word that I'm thinking of, and if it comes to me, I'll tell you. But I just wanted to share that with you because I wanted you to see how this tiny, tiny, tiny little crystal came into my day in a most magical way and just lifted me out of this funk. And when I found the crystal, I didn't even know yet. Maybe I did. I can't remember the timing. It was close. It could have been before even that I was exposed to the chemicals and went into my funk, that this crystal showed up. It probably was. And it was, I'm sure it was, because afterwards I wasn't doing much of anything. So it's like the universe was already preparing this crystal for me to connect with. It's so magical. I mean, the crystals are, and the universe is beyond time and space. So, we're in this linear thought where it's like this happens and then this happens and then the next thing happens. With the crystals, they're like out of that linear time frame and in this expansive state, and they will come to you sometimes even before you need them. And this is how it is with magic and with spirit. You often are given the remedy before you need the cure. And I've seen it happen many times with my star songs. I've seen it happen in many different ways. I've especially seen it happen with the crystals. So that is why I came here today, to share this beautiful little tiny magical being. And look how tiny it is. Let me bring that dime over again. Look how tiny it is. And look how powerful it is. So you can never need to ask the question, does size matter? And, listen, there are some times where a bigger crystal is singing for you, and there's a purpose for it, but it's not about the size. It's about the crystal itself. So there you go. And I hope that, I want you to know that you can connect with this crystal through this video. And you could connect with its energy and feel that beautiful lifting of your spirits, even through cyberspace. So sending you lots and lots and lots of crystal love and many blessings. Have a beautiful, magical day.